Hello YouTubians, it's Pookie here. I am going to tell you that I am halfway through my challenge to myself. That was a New Year's resolution. That was to read 50 books this year, which will probably be the most books I've ever read in a year. I'm a very relaxed reader most of the time, but I've gotten really into reading books for the past couple of years, and so this challenge was just to, you know, give me something to do that I could feasibly do with my condition and everything, and being ill. Sitting and reading a book isn't always the hardest thing in the world. Anyway, so I've managed to read 25 books so far. I'm very, very happy about that, because it's August, and so we're reaching, you know, that point where I might have to pick up a bit more of the pace, but I'm halfway through, so and it's more than I managed to read last year, which I only managed to read 13 books, and the year before that I managed 24, and then 2009 I read, well, I'd only actually listed 5, but I have this Word document, which has all the books that I've read. So it's, this is 2009, this is 2010, 11, and then this year, which there are 25 of, so I'm doing pretty well, I think. I want to talk about each book in a little bit of a kind of if I like them and all that kind of thing. So the first book I started with in 2012 was American Psycho, because it was a birthday present from a friend of mine. Was it birthday or was it Christmas? I'm not sure now. Anyway, it's a very good book. Not for somebody squeamish at all. There's some really great bits in the book, and I really enjoyed it, but I don't think it will be for people who don't. I mean, if you can't watch the movie, then I would never tell you to go and watch the book. So, to read the book. If you like the movie, however, I would suggest that you read it. I'm the type of person who doesn't mind books like that. I've read The Exorcist before, and I've seen the movies and all this kind of thing, so I don't have a problem with gore or twisted, you know, screwed up people. So I enjoyed it as a book, but I don't think many people would. My second book was Phantom of the Opera, Gaston Leroux's book, the original. I actually have a copy of it in French and an English copy. I did not read it in the French because I don't know how to speak French, although having the French copy of it does make me want to learn so that I could read it in the French. I really enjoyed that. I think if you're a fan of Phantom of the Opera, the musical, or even the film, or anything to do with Phantom of the Opera, then I do suggest to read the book. I think you kind of have to take it in as a whole, and I know that yeah, I mean, it kind of gives you like maybe a more in-depth feel of the character, so that, you know, he's not just, because when with books and films and things like that, I tend to look at them as a whole character. If they're completely different, then of course you'll have the book character and the film character. In some of these cases, that's the thing. Kathy Reich's Temperance Brennan is a completely different character in the book than it is in the series Bones. So they're two different people in a lot of ways in my mind. But then there are other characters like Harry Potter, where Daniel Radcliffe's portrayal or the script adds some flair to it that the book didn't, or the book gives you a lot more insight into the character than the films did, you know, so it gives you a whole, and I think the Phantom of the Opera book did that, kind of completing the whole picture for me. It was very kind of good, and then there was other characters and things like that. Third book. This is going to take a while if I go through them, but I'll try and speed up. Third book was Mrs. Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children, by Ransom Riggs, a friend of John Green's. He has an awesome YouTube channel. Please do go check it out. It's Ransom Riggs, is his name, and there's some awesome videos on there. And the book was really great. I'm very much looking forward to the next one. I do suggest to read it. This is an any age can read it book. I do believe, because it's got the safety of being a fantasy without any particularly nasty bits, but it gives you that good pace and excitement for an adult to enjoy as well. So it's a book that I suggest to everyone. My fourth book was The Fault in Our Stars. I read that as soon as I got it, after Christmas. Laura bought it for me for my birthday, but obviously it didn't come out until, because she pre-ordered a copy, and then I read it, and it's a signed copy by John Green. All of them are, of course, and I really enjoyed that book. It was a very, very good book. If you don't know about the Vlogbrothers or about John Green's writing, do go check him out. He's a good writer. Out of all of his books, this one is hard to read if you're anybody with illness, because he hits it right on the head, and it can be a bit kind of, when you're somebody who suffers from illness, you understand what she's going through, and some of the things. Anyway, so it is a really good book. It is a lot more adult than his previous books, which I would say were more. I don't know. It is a teen fiction. It just, I don't know. It deals with a lot more emotional things. So if you want something easy to read, I would suggest one of his other books, like Looking for Alaska, or An Abundance of Catherines, which was a really good book. But if you want something that's a bit more serious in tone, then The Fault in Our Stars is a must-read. Number 5 was Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? It was a good book. I really enjoyed that. If you, Blade Runner is the film that it's written. No, Blade Runner was written from the book Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep by Philip K. Dick. And yes, I'm a 2-year-old. So it was a really good book. I think there's a lot of different things that you can take away from it. Joanne had to buy it for a philosophy course, because it was part of her course, and she gave it to me to read and to keep after she'd read it and studied it, and I very much enjoyed it. It is a high intellectual book, though, so if you're not somebody who enjoys really really complicated books in the sense that it's not just about a plot line, it has more than that. There's a whole transcended level of text that you can understand, which is why she studied it for philosophy. It's a very complicated book, so if you want an easy read, it's not a good one for easy reads. The next one after that, book 6, was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. Classical book. I'm trying to get some classical book reading into my my education, and it was good. I really enjoyed it. I think it is a good read. I think it's very different from any adaptation that I've seen before, although I not long before I actually picked up the book to read, I watched Kenneth Branagh's version of Frankenstein, and that does stick with the book quite closely. So if you have seen that film, then that's probably the closest adaptation I've seen of Frankenstein. If you haven't, read the book first, then see Kenneth Branagh's. It's very good. Either way, good book. Number 7 is Monday Mourning, by Kathy Reiches. Kathy Reiches is my favourite author. Absolutely love her. Another brilliant book in the Temperance Brennan series. I do suggest that you read her if you like criminal fiction thrillers. If not, probably not your thing. Number 8 was The Time Traveller's Wife by Audery. Her last name, I'm not sure how to say. I think Neffinigger. Me and my sister Laura say Neffinger because it's, I don't know. Apart from the fact that she has an unfortunate name, which is hard to pronounce, The Time Traveller's Wife was a very good book. It's a bit sad, and probably not for the younger generation, but I would suggest it. It's a good book. I really enjoyed it. The film is good as well. So if you get the chance to see the film and you like that, then the book is a lot more in-depth detail and some other plot twists that you don't get from the film and things like that. So I do suggest reading it if you've seen the film and you like the film. Okay. Number number 9 was The Hunger Games by Susan Collins. Really wanted to read the book because everybody was talking about it at the time, and I was trying to avoid it because I wanted to read it. And it wasn't long after I kind of was convinced that I should read it that they announced that they were making a movie. So I went to Sainsbury's and I picked up the only copy left in the kids section that was hidden behind like a freaking Mr. Men book or something. And I really did enjoy the Hunger Games series. I really enjoyed the Hunger Games, the first one. I do think it's a must read. I think the whole series is a collection. I have them as that's book 9 is the Hunger Games, 11 and 12 is Catching Fire and MockingJay, because I went and bought both of them afterwards. And although I know a lot of people do not like the ending or how it ends up, I think for me it ended right, because it doesn't end with a fanciful everything's happy ending, but it ends in a reality type ending, and the book is dealing with a lot of hard issues, and I think a lot of people kind of try and separate it into this fictional place where actually Susan Collins was writing about a lot in metaphors and things like that. So it kind of ended correct. It ended right for me. I know other people didn't feel like that, but you know. In between The Hunger Games, Catching Fire and MockingJay, I read The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien. I very much enjoyed that, actually. For some reason, I had it stuck in my mind that it was going to be a really tough read because of Lord of the Rings and how much of a bad rep that has in being a tough read. But The Hobbit is so much more of a child's story in the sense of how it's written. It's easy read, and I would much suggest it to anybody to pick it up and give it a read. It's a really good book. And with the film coming out, apparently they've scheduled to have 3 films come out to do with the Hobbit story that everyone's looking forward to. I'm very much looking forward to it, and they've got some good actors in the films. So yes, do read The Hobbit. Book 13 was Game of Thrones, the first book. 14, A Clash of Kings, which is the second book in the Game of Thrones series. So 13 and 14, both George R.R. Martin. They are a very good series. There is a lot of similarities to the series of the first book, but the second book it veers off quite drastically, and you get a completely different storyline and some of the things that happen. Of course, it follows roughly everything that happens, but some characters and also more in depth storytelling and character background and things like this. So I do suggest that you read them if you are a fan of the Game of Thrones series. Do that. Excuse me. Melancholy, Death of an Oyster Boy and Other Short Stories by Tim Burton. One of Laura's books that she had. She handed me to read. It's a book of poems and little short stories and things that Tim Burton has written and drawn little pictures for in his time, and I very much enjoyed it. It was a good, fun little read for an afternoon. I think I read it in about an hour or 2 hours, probably not even an hour. It was very small. If you're looking for a light read or just some poetry or things like that, and you're a bit of a kind of dark and twisty like me, I would suggest it's a really good book. If you like Tim Burton's work, it is a really good book. Pocket Book of Boosh, which was a book of the Mighty Boosh series that Noel and Julius wrote, with different pictures and stories and things like that of the series and pictures and the tour and everything. It was fun to read, and although I don't know, a part of me kind of feels like I shouldn't count it as a book, but it is a book, so yes. I read after the Pocket Book of Boosh, I felt that I needed to read something a bit more substantial, so then I read Candide by Voltaire. So I think I balanced myself out. Good book. I really enjoyed that one, actually. I found it amusing just how soap opera his life was, and I feel that my life is fairly similar in the fact that things tend to just, instead of things being like a roller coaster. It's just sometimes you kind of feel like it's like just you're going from shit to shit, basically. And his story is about that, and obviously there's a whole other context to the meaning of why he wrote it and everything, and they use it for schools and things like that. But a good read if you're just reading for fun. After that, book 18 was The Great Gatsby. Laura wanted me to read that very much, so even though she sat and told me the entire plot line for it, and then she said that she sat down and she was like, "Oh, The Great Gatsby is a really good book. I've read it. You shouldn't read it though. It's not. I don't think you would enjoy it." And so she told me everything that happened in the story, everything, in great detail. And then, and it's a very small book, so it wasn't that hard for her to do that. And then afterwards, she managed to get it into her head that she was going to convince me to read the book, even though she'd told me everything. So I read that, and it was pretty much exactly what she said. There was no twists and turns for me for it, because I knew what was going to happen, and I didn't enjoy it that much because of that reason. So I know that a lot of other people do enjoy The Great Gatsby, but I didn't enjoy it, so I don't. Sorry about that. A Storm of Swords, which is part of the Game of Thrones trilogy collection. There's going to be 7 of them, so it's not a trilogy. George R.R. Martin, of course. I really enjoyed that one. The 3rd book, so much stuff happened in it, and you're just like, oh my god. So, do get into them. I do suggest to get into them, because it's a really good series. Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Yeah, it was good. I was thinking that it was going to be a bit like the film with the Gary Oldman film of Bram Stoker's Dracula, which is just, it's like a pretty much verging on porno with how much sex is in it. So I was a bit kind of concerned about reading, because I was just a bit like, I'm not really into reading overly sexified books. But thought I would read it anyway because it's a classic, and then I was shocked to find out that there's none in it. There is absolutely no sex in it. There's nothing, not even none of this lore or anything like that. So I found that hysterical, because it was just, it's like, as the years have progressed, because it's written in a time when that would have been what the Bram Stoker's film is with Gary Oldman is now. Can be considered just a normal film. In those days would have been scandalous, so I found that very amusing. Book 21 was Dead Until Dark by Charlene Harris. Charlene, yeah. American name. Dead Until Dark is part of the Sookie Stackhouse True Blood things. Now, that is a sexified book, but I really do love the True Blood series and the story and everything, so I've really enjoyed that. I've got the 2nd one, and I'm going to have a look at buying the rest after that if I really enjoy the 2nd one. Book 22 was The Curious Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, another one which I thought I knew the story for because of all of the different interpretations of it over the years that I've seen, and because it's something that's ingrained in public knowledge, not public knowledge, but modern stories and things. Yeah, I got a Facebook thing. What does it say? Joe Loves You tagged you in a post. Anyway, nothing important then. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, but the story was very different from how any of the films that I've seen, any of the series that I've used it as a storytelling technique, or any references. It's very different from that, so I do suggest to give that a read, because it is quite different, and a bit darker actually, but it was good. I really enjoyed that. And then what I've been reading the last 3 books to 25, which my sister Joanne, who just tagged me in a post on Facebook, was the Tamir Triad, which is The Bone Doll Twins, Hidden Warrior, and The Oracle Queen by Lynn Flewing. She wrote this series about, it's a very complicated storyline, but is really good. Basically about a witch who gets this vision. Well, she's not a witch; she's a mage. Who gets a vision about the monarch in their land called Skylar, and basically, if a queen is sat on the throne, the world will not, the land will not be subjugated. That's the prophecy that's on the land. But unfortunately, King Eris has killed all of his females in the line, except his sister, who he keeps quite under his thumb. And basically the land is suffering from famine, disease, droughts and floods and all this kind of horrible stuff, but he still remains king, and it's basically the story about this well, what he thinks is a boy but is actually a girl, which he doesn't find out until later, becoming queen. But the way they've hidden him was to put him in his twin brother's body, put her in his twin brother's body, but unfortunately they had to kill the twin brother to put her in that body, which is unfortunate, and you end up with her brother becoming this demon spirit that haunts her. And it's a very good trilogy. I would suggest it. It's not a very popular one, I don't think, because there's nothing really about it on the internet very much, as I tried to look to see if looked for information for it on the internet, but there wasn't actually much there. But it's a very good series. I do suggest to read it. And that's my 25 books that I've read. I finished The Oracle Queen yesterday night, yeah. And very much enjoyed all those books. So, let's have a look. 21 minutes, dear lord. That's going to be fun to edit. What I'm reading now is The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, by Stieg Larsson. Stieg Larsson. I love the smell of fresh books. Fresh, new books. But I saw the film for it recently and really enjoyed it more than I thought I would. Hearing some, because it had some graphic scenes in it. But I really enjoyed it. It was a really good film, so I kind of thought to myself, because it ends and there's 2 other books and the film ends at the end of the first book, I think, meaning that you're left on a bit of a cliffhanger. So I was like, I must read these books. So I've bought the first one and I'm going to read it, and then I will probably go and buy the second and third, with reading other stuff as well in time. So fingers crossed I make it to 50, but that's the first 25 books of the year that I've read. I do suggest to go and check some out. Amazon, you can always get a book for a penny off Amazon. Go and check out your local charity shops, especially classics. Classics are really easy to get at charity shops. Yeah, thank you for watching my book review thing, and bye, YouTubians.
We're making fantasy.